Good morning. I'm Stephen Leake. I'm an elder with First Presbyterian Church of Mesquite, and I'm also the teacher of the Discipleship Sunday School class there. Today we're continuing with our study of the Gospel of John, and we're in chapter 11, which is the prelude to the raising of Lazarus from the dead. Last week, Jesus left Jerusalem and went northeast across the Jordan River to the place where John had baptized him, about 5 miles north of the Dead Sea. There he got word that his friend Lazarus, who lived in Bethany, was ill. And this is part of his reaction to that news. As always, for our curriculum, we're using the Daily Bible Study Series by Professor William Barclay, and we're also using, for our scripture readings, the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. So, let's get started with our scripture reading for today. It's John 11, verses 6 through 10. After having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then, after this, he said to his disciples, "Let us go to Judea again." The disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the Jews were just now trying to stone you. Are you going there again?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Those who walk during the day do not stumble, because they see the light of this world. But those who walk at night stumble, because the light is not in them." We may find it strange that John shows us Jesus staying 2 whole days where he was when he received the news about Lazarus. Commentators have advanced different reasons to explain this delay. It's been suggested that Jesus waited so that when he arrived, Lazarus would indisputably be dead. It's also been suggested that Jesus waited because the delay would make the miracle he proposed to perform all the more impressive. The real reason why John tells the story in this way shows us Jesus taking action entirely on his own initiative and not because of the persuasion of anyone else. In the story of the wedding feast at Cana, where they ran out of wine and Jesus' mother was concerned, John shows Mary coming to Jesus with that problem. Jesus' first answer to Mary is, "Don't bother about this. Let me handle it in my own way." He takes action not because he's persuaded or compelled to do so, but entirely on his own initiative. When John tells the story of Jesus' brothers trying to dare him to go to Jerusalem, he shows us Jesus at first refusing to go and then going in his own good time. It's always John's aim to show that Jesus did things on his own timetable. And that is what John is doing here. And it's a warning to us. So often we would like Jesus to do things our way, but we must leave him to do them in his own way. When Jesus announced that he was going back to Judea, his disciples were shocked and staggered. They remembered that the last time he was there, the Jews had tried to find a way to kill him. To go to Judea at that time seemed to them the surest way for him to commit suicide. Then Jesus said something which contains a great truth. "Are there not," he asked, 12 hours in the day? There are three great truths implied in that question. First, a day cannot finish before it ends. There are 12 hours in the day, and they will be played out no matter what happens. The day's period is fixed, and nothing will shorten or lengthen it. Second, if there are 12 hours in the day, there's time enough for everything that needs to be done. There's no need for haste. Third, if there are 12 hours in the day, there are only 12 hours. They cannot be extended, and therefore, they cannot be wasted. There is time enough, but not too much. The time we have must be used to the utmost. Jesus goes on to develop what he has just said about time. He says that if people walk in the light, they will not stumble. But if they try to walk in the night, they will stumble. John again and again says things which have two meanings, one which lies on the surface and is true, and another which lies below the surface and is even more true. And so it is here. There's a surface meaning which is perfectly true and which we must all learn. The Jewish day, like the Roman day, was divided into 12 equal hours, from sunrise to sunset. That, of course, means that the length of an hour varied according to the length of the day and the season of the year. On the surface, Jesus simply means that no one will stumble when the sun is shining. But when the dark comes, the way cannot be seen. There was no street lighting in those days, especially in the rural places. With the dark, the time for journeying was done. Jesus is saying that the day's work must be finished within the day, for the night comes when work is ended. If we could have one wish, it might well be that we might come to the end of each day with our work completed. The unrest and the hurry of life are so often simply due to the fact that we are trying to catch up on work which should have been done before. We should spend our precious capital of time and not dissipate it on useless endeavors, however pleasant. We should live so that at the end of each day, we are never in debt to time. But below the surface meaning is another meaning. And who can hear the phrase, the light of the world, without thinking about Jesus Christ? Again and again, John uses the words the dark and the night to describe life without Christ, a life dominated by evil. In his dramatic account of the last meal together, John describes how Judas went out to make the dreadful final arrangements for Jesus' betrayal. John says in chapter 13, verse 30, "So after receiving the bread, he immediately went out, and it was night." The night is the time when people go from Christ and when evil can possess them. The gospel is based on the love of God, but whether we like it or not, there's a threat at its heart. There's only so much time to make our peace with God through Christ. And if we do not do so, judgment must follow. So Jesus says, finish your greatest work, the work of getting yourself right with God while you have the light of the world. For the time comes when for you too, the dark must come, and then it will be too late. No other gospel is so sure that God loved the world as the fourth gospel is. But also no gospel is so sure that love may be refused. It has two messages. the glory of being on time, and the tragedy of being too late. That's our lesson for today. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for joining me.